Hello, welcome to Creative You Podcast. Here it is. It's Wednesday already and midweek over the hump. It's funny when you have a holiday, how the whole thing seems different. So today I thought I would talk about the weights of different yarns. I was watching a crochet podcast and the host crocheted something and it turned out much bigger. And she was puzzling over this, like, why is this bigger? I did everything it said. What's going on? Why is this bigger? And then she realized, oh, it called for DK weight, and I used worsted. And then she said something that shocked me. She said, in the United States, we have red heart. I was like, what? Okay, let's pedal backwards. When I was young, all that I really knew was red heart. When I went to McCrory's and I looked at all the beautiful yarn, that's what we had. That was economical. They had all the pretty colors. Now, at one time, Red Heart did come out with a sport weight yarn called Red Heart Soft. And it didn't go over. It was discontinued. They've tried, but they have their customers so used to, it's like a heavy worsted yarn. Having a yarn shop, the Red Heart lovers are the hardest customers to please. You can't give yarn away. They're just used to their Red Heart. And I remember one time I had an older lady came in. She barely walked through and she's heading out. I mean, she drove 35, 40 minutes to get to the shop because people that knew her were pressuring her to visit my shop. You got to go. You got to see all the yarns. So now she's been there. She's done it. There's nothing I have that she wants. And she's standing at the doorway telling me this. Basically, there's nothing you have here that I want. And her friend pipes up and says, last year she sold 250 dishcloths at like fairs and bazaars. And I said, out of Red Heart. And this lady looked at me and said, basically like, honey, don't you even attempt to try me and tell me anything. I've been around a lot longer than you have. But Red Heart's acrylic. You don't want a dishcloth that stretches out and has fuzzies. No, so I just let her go on her way. And then one of the yarn reps was telling me that he has 3 aunts. Some people say aunts. And they have lots of money, but they only use Red Heart. And so he gave them some luxurious yarn. And the next time he saw them, he asked them how they liked it. And they said, oh, that stuff, we gave that away. I had a similar experience with my grandmother years ago. She would always use cheaper yarns. I thought this would be nice for her to have some expensive, some nicer yarns. That was in January at her birthday. In June, she meets me at the door and says, here, these yarns are junk. So I don't know that that's the common experience, but I've seen it happen. And first of all, the weight of Red Heart. If somebody comes in and they've started an Afghan and now they pull it out of the closet 15 years later, and these colors have been discontinued, it is difficult for them to find anything in the shop that they can use. So it's very kind of like specific. But the truth is, we have many, many yarns that aren't Red Heart. So here's a standard chart that you will find in crochet magazines and knitting magazines, usually toward the end. And there are DK weights and lace weights and cobweb. Usually it's like cobweb, lace, fingering, sport DK, worsted, Aran, bulky, super bulky, but this is the standard system where they use numbers. Now, older skeins of yarn may not have any numbers, and they tell you that those yarns fall under those categories. So all the things that I just told you, because a yarn could be a sport weight using this needle or a DK weight using this needle. And here they tell you how many stitches you get, your gauge. So crochet gauge ranges in single crochet how many stitches you get in 4 inches and the recommended hook. So if you have a pattern that calls for, say, a DK weight yarn and you use a worsted, a DK at its 17 stitches and the number 411, that means for every 4 inches you could be getting 5 to 6 extra stitches. That could really impact it. So I thought I would run through choosing a yarn for a project, and it is a Foss. It's Foss, to say that, oh, yarn stores, don't go in there, they're too expensive. I have something for everything. I have a $2 bargain section, I have a bargain section, I have yarns as cheap as $2.99 all the way up. So there is something for everything. Once colors are discontinued, they get marked way down and go in the clearance. I had a woman one day came in and said, this is my pattern. This is what I need. I need a lot of yardage, like 2,100 yards. Is there anything in the shop that you would like to see go out the door? That was a very nice way for her to put it to me. She saved a lot of money and I was happy because I'm trying to clear this yarn out of the shop. So here's my pattern. I'm working on that. I say so a lot and I'm working on it. But if there's a word you say a lot and you try to get rid of it, you just pick something up else. You pick something else up in its place. So I love this designer, this crochet designer called Nomad Stitches, I think, Nomad Stitches. And this is Etna, a Crochet Tee. I love her picture here. And it calls for a sport weight yarn. So according to my picture here, there's my sport weight yarn. Sometimes people will substitute a DK if they can finagle it to get gauge. And you might be wondering what happened to my other project. Well, last night I got my secret crop top, my secret rib top, all the way up to here. Now, because I'm not going around and around and around, I'm getting a different look with my colors, but that's okay. You bind off stitches, you mark it for the armholes. So now what I have to do is a little bit of ribbing and then proceed onward. This looks tiny, but for a 14-year-old, it's gonna stretch. So here's my pattern. I need for a extra small 550 meters. Now, how does that compare to yards? Add the first two numbers. So 550 plus 55. So I need a little bit over 600. So here would be some of my choices. And then I ask myself, the person I'm going to give it to, they're going to wear it in the summer. So that leaves out yarns like Ella Rae Cozy Soft because it's 75% acrylic. you're going to get sweaty and your skin's not going to be able to sweat and breathe. So that one's out. Here is Maple DK. And when I was saying that just because you go to a yarn shop, it doesn't have to be more expensive. This yarn makes beautiful shawls, so $8, right? But this is a polyester, and again, your skin's not going to be able to breathe. Cotton Batik shows you a picture here if you knitted it. That's how the stripes are going to be. This would be an option, 50% cotton, 50% viscose. So that is $5 a skein, and I think I would need, wow, I would need 6 of these, so $30. Nice yarns are an investment. People bring in garments they've had that are 50, 60 years old that look fantastic. Cotton cashmere, they have a lot of patterns for babies. The color palette in this yarn is beautiful pastels. And I don't know if you can see it, but it has a nice kind of like semi-tonal effect. Cute story. This lady comes into the yarn shop today. She wants to make a big bang scarf done with lace weight yarn, black yarn, and then every now and then you have a colored stripe. Usually black isn't people's most favorite color to knit or crochet with. So I show her the Ella Rae Lace Merino, which is a fingering weight, and it was a semi-tonal. It was blackish. There were some areas that were a little lighter. It looked more realistic just than solid black. 487 yards for a 487 yards, $24.99. But then she says, well, here in my pattern, the yarn that they had 100 grams had like almost 900 yards. Yes, okay, so I show her Juniper Moon Finley, which is 50% silk, 50% lace, a lighter weight, a lace weight instead of a fingering. And if you look at this category, it's in the number 1, the super fine. Now she's getting 847 yards for the same price, which you would think silk would be more expensive. So she shows her husband. He goes, well, I like the semi-tonal one. And she said, well, you know, it's gonna cost us twice as much. $25, $50, like, well, then I ask her, are you going to have to get all those individual colors? And sure, I would love to sell all those little colors. And actually Knitting Fever has these little tiny skeins out now called Teeny Weenies, which for a few dollars you can buy, you know, one. And then she said, well, I have some stash at home of, you know, because it's only knit across and knit back. So I said, what about embroidery floss? The colors are bright. That's my dog. And you could, you know, figure out how many threads you need to be equal to this yarn. She loved the idea. So cotton cashmere, and the granddaughter I'm making it for loves pastels. Now this is, when you mention cashmere, the price goes up. 169 yards, and I think it's like $13. Yeah, that would be pricey. Debbie Bliss, but it's not really pricey if you think that 50 years from now this top is still gonna look great. Debbie Bliss Juliet, which was called a summer tweed, is a really nice yarn. It is discontinued. 52% cotton, 46% acrylic for $8. So it would be, I think, about a $24 top. This is Louisa Harding Amatola. This is a sport weight. It does beautiful striping. But again, this has wool, and this isn't going to be a summer top. If I wanted to make that top for fall and winter wear it with a sweater, I would pick this. The same with Lucy, which is a Louisa Harding yarn. This is also, I would choose this if it was a fall and winter top. Then we have Lunas, which is a mercerized cotton. This would be a great choice. It's a shiny cotton. That would be a good choice. Kid cotton. So 100% cotton. Now, when a yarn company puts acrylic, then the price goes down. So Cascade has a yarn called Sarasota, 50% acrylic, 50% cotton. The price goes down to $6. This is $10. You get 273 yards for $10. So now my top would be $20. I mean, if you bought a hand crocheted top, what do you think you would pay for it? Then we have this gorgeous yarn called Katia Funny Rainbow. This is a cotton, 100% cotton, 688 yards. And it has two colors twisted together. You do get some striping, $34. So I could get this top and have enough yarn left over for something else. So now all that I have to do is decide. I think it's going to come down to this or this. So I'll let you in on that. But there's just a little Yarn Weights 101. Sharon Hilbert came in today and put these beautiful dishcloths on my counter. So there's the post-stitch, really bright colors for dishcloth yarn. She said some of these patterns are falling leaves and some are tilted rows. So there's another one. And I know people hate to use their dishcloths, but even so, these patterns with the bumps and the grooves make incredible dust cloths and cleaning cloths. There's another one and another one. So way to go, Sharon. I love them. So join me tomorrow and have a great evening, what's left of it, and keep that big, beautiful smile. Shine, baby, shine.